John, if he's, to me, he was my great uncle. If he's looking down on us today, I think he's got a big smile on his face, don't you?
Yes.
He certainly was probably one of the most generous and talented people that I ever knew. He was my first art teacher. Every time I came to the house, he would have something put me on his lap and say, let's do this. He would show me how to break up the human face in a geometric way, where the eyes fell, where the nose fell, and so on. Never stinted on time. And it was in his house that I got the passion. Because when you first walked in, you got the smell of the oil and the turpentine and the paint, and I always felt that it brought him to mind all the time. And he always was painting, never realizing that he probably resented the fact that he never was able to crack the ice as far as the art world was concerned, but it wasn't his fault. Unfortunately, he was born at a time that while classic art was good, all of a sudden it wasn't. It was abstract art, and that knocked him right out of the ballpark. He made it just in time for this art competition, which you see with this Tahitian girl. She made the second prize at the Metropolitan Museum. Jackson Pollock made the first. And as I had indicated to some people before, I was there when that painting came back from the Metropolitan. And while he was happy that it made it, at the same time he was angry that the other had made it before him. Being an artist, I can understand, you're very competitive. But he grabbed an empty canvas and he kept saying, you know what they want today? I'll show you what they want today. He grabbed the empty canvas, he grabbed a tube of paint, and he squeezed that paint and squished it all over the canvas. Then, just rubbed it and said, there, that's it, that's what they want. And I knew, I'm not going to talk to Uncle John for a while, because this was not the time that he would feel very good about talking. But I know as I grew and I became an artist myself, I know exactly how he felt. I was so happy when we met last year, the cousins and I said, wouldn't it be nice if we gave Uncle John his due at this point? He never had it in his own time. And they said, oh yeah, that would be a good idea, but never thinking, did you ever think, kids, that we would get this far? Never did. But here we are. And the internet now has Uncle John's paintings. There'll be a website for Uncle John. Every time somebody wants to look at his paintings, all they have to do, Gene Herbert, there it'll all be right in front of him. That's something that in his time he would never have been able to have. I'm so glad we could do that, and I'm so glad you're all here. And I would like to introduce, I'll call first on Diane because she has something prepared. Diane Costello, one of the grandchildren.
My name is Diane Costello, and I'm the second grandchild of the 6 grandchildren of Jean and Helene Herbert. Patricia Bocchino is my sister, and she was first born, but don't tell her I said so. Marilyn, Richard, Jean, and Carol followed. We were young when he passed away, but we remember him as a gentle man with a gentle soul. When you would go to his home, you would find him at an easel with brushes in one hand and a cigarette in the other, which he would hold between his thumb and index finger, much like Artie Johnson in Laughter. We grew up with his art all around us, and I guess we took his talent for granted. He painted a mural on an entire living room wall of our home in Queens, a scene of birds in flight in the Everglades, which was simply magnificent. When our family moved to California, our parents regret that it had not been done on canvas so that it could be rolled up and moved with us. I remember Opa saying that he could always do another if we tired of it or just want to change. We never tired of that film mural, and I wonder who had to paint the wall after we left that house. Some of the pictures on display today, hanging in our homes, were mere sketches back in the day. Lots of them are dated, and some were actually done in Germany. One of my favorites is of my mother at age 5, drawn on a paper bag. You can see it right back there, which was titled My Struts Cuff, or My Little Sulker. And don't check my German language arts because I don't have any. Anyway, this picture hung by thumbtacks in their house in Germany. It was rolled up and arrived in America with the Herbert clan back in 1928. Our mother used to say that the song, Oh My Papa, sung by Eddie Fisher, was written for her father because he was truly wonderful and compassionate. And if you listen to the words of that song, it was Upa to a T. Upa was the nucleus of our family, and Christmas was the highlight of the year. We would all go to their house on Christmas Eve. The tree was trimmed with silver and blue lights and decorations. Our young eyes would light up with delight. Santa was always right down the street. Upa would announce that the children had to go to the bedroom. Naturally, we ran. What seemed like an hour went by, and we would hear jingle bells ring, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. The bedroom door would open, and the front door would close. And guess what? You just missed Santa again. This went on until Carol, the youngest of the 6 of us, grew up and discovered that, guess what? There really is no Santa Claus. How all those presents appeared under the tree is still a mystery. Easter was another happy childhood memory. The children always got huge baskets full of at least one large chocolate bunny in the center, surrounded by marshmallow yellow chicks, chocolate eggs filled with deliciousness, and of course jelly beans, resting on green straw. We had a whole week off for Easter break, which meant we could play all day and make many trips home for our candy, right down to the last jelly bean. This trip down memory lane has felt good, and Upa will live forever in our hearts and memories. And I thank you all for coming today. He would be very proud.
All I can say is that Uncle John was probably a person before his own time, because he really saw things that were there that nobody else did. He was able to pick things out, as you probably noticed by looking at his book, looking at the different styles. He didn't miss anything. He saw the humor of certain things, like the kids going and stealing apples from the tree, like the mermaids, the fantasy. His mind was ever active, and it was always involved in the love of life and the love of nature. That is one thing that I took from him, that no matter what it is, he would look at it and make a drawing or a painting from whatever it is he saw, and he brought something out of it. And I think that is probably what a true artist does. He doesn't look for fans. He doesn't put his finger up and see which way the public is now thinking. He looks, he sees, and he depicts, and he shows. Either somebody wants to see it or they don't, but he's not wavering. He does it. And I think that's what Uncle John told me, and that's what I did. And I'm hoping that anybody that follows in the arts does exactly the same. Don't worry about because Andy Warhol did this, and because this way we have to follow that. That is not what art is about. Art is about what's in here and what's in there, and he gave it to us, and gave it to you all, and I hope you appreciate it. Now, Sandra is the one that she's my oldest grandchild, by the way. I just happened to notice that, tell that. And she just graduated Bard, and she is going into the arts herself. She is going to be art historian, is that it? And she's going to come up and say a few words also. I take credit for that.
My grandma already gave a really good speech, so it's hard to add anything to that. But it was really cool to be able to be kind of involved with this because I didn't know a lot about Gene Herbert before this. I'd seen some of his paintings in my house and my grandparents' house, but I was really able to see like the scope of his work. He was really versatile. And looking through his drawings, it's cool to see that he was really interested in like the academic side of it and like doing things like sort of realistically, and he was self-trained, which was really cool too, but he also had a lot of like fantastical scenes, and yeah, it was just really cool to be able to be involved with this, and to know that someone, this artist was like in my family, so yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Sandra was the firstborn. My mother was still living when she was born. Soon, but she never got to know my mother. And that's why I did write a book that they get to see what their parents were like and so on. And I'm glad she was part of this because she gets to see what Uncle John was about. And as an aside, that has nothing to do with art, I'll just add this, that everybody here knows and has said, I wish I would have asked more questions about what came before, like our ancestors and so on. We always forget to do that when we're younger. And then we start asking questions when it's later and we can't find the answers anymore. I think what we have to start doing is really looking from where we came and gathering knowledge from that. Because I think that's where we all have to go back to a certain degree. Getting back to basics. And it sounds sort of corny. But at the same time, it's true enough that when you know where you're from, you know what the roots are, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, and it's fun to know where you're going. And that's the main thing. And I think by seeing something like this, it helps. Take care. Thanks an awful lot for coming.